Hey, Cedric, Bob, this guy won't wear a ribbon. Do you have something to say, human? Visual.
It's not like he wants to smush up against your affiliates, yes?
I don't think so. He thinks the clinic can and will be ridiculous court of law.
Next time you come down, I'll give you a few free loads.
This is a process, Mr.
What hasn't he done? Ren T. Brown's credits can be found in every corner of entertainment, from stage to screen, both big and small. But he came by it naturally. He's part of a century-long legacy of life committed to lifting up the arts, and he's written a book about it. How performing is in his blood. That new book is The Family Business, 4 Generations of One Black Family's Artistic Odyssey. Ren joins us today. Hello, Ren. How are you?
I am well and happy. Thank you so very much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being, available to us. Let me just talk about this book for a second and your family. This is very unique and unusual. Not many black families have so much art in their family.
You know, I've learned that as well in the process of writing this book and, in fact, producing the book as well. There's several generations. You know, the Wayans family now, they have 2 generations of performers and others within our community. But 4 generations seems to be a rarity. And I'm rather proud to be a part of those 4 generations.
Yeah, you go way, way, way back. Give us an idea. And from both sides, your mom and your dad, give us an idea of the richness that's in your family.
Well, the story begins with my great-grandfather on my maternal side, Willis Handy Young, born in 1872 in Thibodaux, Louisiana. He was a choir master. He's a composer and an arranger, but he's a chief musician. And he had music to give his children. And Papa Young had a rule in his house, and a law, if you will. If you're going to be in my house, you're going to play music. So all 3 of his children, my beloved grandfather among them, became musicians. And my grandfather, Lee Young Sr., was the first black staff musician in the history of Hollywood, Columbia Pictures, 1946. In 1936, he was the drummer for Ethel Waters. In 1937, he made his first recordings in December of that year with Fats Waller at the famous Door here in Hollywood. And from 1953 until 1962, he was the drummer and musical director for the great Nat King Cole. So that's my mother's side. And then, you know, my grandmother, my mother's mother, she was a court singer and cotton club dancer. She was born in 1911 here in Los Angeles, Ruth E. Givens. And so she comes together in 1934 with my grandfather. And fortunately, that following year, my mother was born in 1935 here in Los Angeles. But my father's line, his father was the 5th black actor in Screen Actors Guild. He was born on March 17, 1900 in Memphis, Tennessee. He played the London Palladium in 1933 during the height of the Depression. In 1934, January 26, 34, he was on the first ever show at the Apollo Theater. He played Broadway in the 1939 and 1940 seasons, and he married Bertha McElroy, my grandmother, born in 1903 in Mobile, Alabama. She begins her career, though, in Philadelphia at the Standard Theater, makes her way to New York during the Harlem Renaissance, and they marry, and my father is born on October 1, 1932. He makes his debut with Cab Calloway in 1936 at the Alhambra Theater in Harlem. So that's kind of the journey of the family over the generations.
That is quite the journey. I hear you have ties in Chicago, too.
I do. You know, my grandfather, again, he played so many years there at the Palmer House and in the great houses there in Chicago. And Chicago was prominent in all the stories, and where I would sit at his knee, so to speak, he would tell me Chicago was always prominently placed in his stories.
This all sounds wonderful and fabulous, but I'm sure there's some dark stories, because I'm sure a lot of your family members face racism during this time.
There's no question about it. You know, my grandmother, who was my heroine in life, Ruth E. Gibbons, she talked about she was a very brown-skinned woman, and brown-skinned people, darker-skinned people, were not to have keen features. And so she talked about one day being on a set, and she got in the makeup trailer, and they sat down, and here she was without these very thick black lips or this very wide black nose, and they were stumped by it. And so the makeup people literally, to widen her nose, put cotton on the ends of toothpicks to widen her nose. So she suffered that kind of indignity, but she believed in being a survivor. She had 2 daughters to feed, and so she plowed through. But at the end of the day, that was a great indignity that she suffered. My grandfather, Lee Young Sr., I mean, he was fired in 1943 from the Camel Caravan because of color. And he fought the lawsuit because there were separate musicians unions here in Los Angeles. The white union was Local 47 and the black union was Local 767. He was a member of Local 767 and he fought on behalf of himself and all the other members of that local, and he won a 13-week contract. He won that retroactively, and then the unions amalgamated in 1953. So there are dark stories in the midst of this kind of illustrious journey.
But Ren, you come from great stock and the strength that you have in your family. Quickly, what if you came to your mom and dad and said, I want to be a dentist? What would they have said?
They would have encouraged it, but at the end of the day, they would have believed that I should go in the direction that my blood was beating. And that from the time I was 5 years old, I felt I had a calling on my life to be a communicator. I didn't know whether it would be ministerial, broadcast, journalistic, or as an actor, but my parents deeply encouraged the communicator that I was from the time I was 5 years old.
I love it. Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time out. Again, the book is called The Family Business, 4 Generations of One Black Family's Artistic Odyssey. You can find it online at thefamilybusinessbook.com.